Welcome, everybody, to the Minnesota Sports Collaboration Podcast Show, where we highlight all of our Minnesota content creators, shows, and friends here on the program. Poppy, how's it going?
It's going great, man. I'm excited to come together with all of our friends. You've heard them on our show, or if you're listening on their show, maybe you've heard us jump in with them. But every week, we're going to have little teasers and snippets from everybody's shows in one spot on all of our feeds so you can get a little taste. And hey, if you haven't listened to one, go check them out. Throw everyone a quick little subscribe, and let's make everyone happy. Now, Isha, what's the first one we have here for this week?
We're going to throw to LockedOn Wild. Our boy Seth Topol drops daily Minnesota Wild content with a wide range of guests. Here's a quick clip of some of his recent content.
The Locked On Madness Bracket Selection Show. Yours truly, Seth Topol, the host of LockedOn Wild's at the helm of the Locked On Madness Selection Committee, and one of the esteemed panelists is here with me tonight. There will be more joining as we go. State of Hoppy of the Sota Pod is here with me, and we teased it a little bit. Wanted to try to leave as much suspense as possible, but we're going bracket challenge here for LockedOn Wild for the month of March. Had a who's who of panelists. No, seriously, who are these people? Do the rankings. And so excited to have you here, Hoppy, to discuss it. And can't wait to see what people's reaction is to the bracket that we put together.
Yeah, reaction, right? That I'm probably going to cause a lot of that personally. And to anyone that's wondering once we get there, like, I'm not a troll. I just have very unique taste.
Well, and in full transparency, we had a specific voting criteria. We had a formula to the madness. And as you'll see with the bracket being unveiled, there was madness that went into it. So what we're doing is we're going to go through a full bracket and try to determine the greatest Minnesota Wild player that exists. Now, there are going to be some interesting things that happen with this based on how the seedings played out. So I'm not sure if the number one seed will win unless particular players get a large portion of the voting, which will be on Twitter. We'll be unveiling this tomorrow with our play-in matchups. And so let's dive in. Let's get to it. I am just now realizing that I did not really have a good way to share the bracket. And here is another one of our esteemed panelists. Zach Zeman is joining us. Gentlemen,
are you ready? Muted. No, now I'm good. What's up, guys? It'll be a fun night. Ahead of us.
Yeah, let's get to some of the voting, and we'll start with our play-in rounds. I will put this on Twitter once we are finished here so that everybody can look at the bracket in its entirety and look at the seedings, look at who's in which bracket. But let's just start with the play-in games, and we'll get some reaction to those. We start with the 16 versus 16 matchup in the forwards group, and that features Derek Bugard going up against Richard Park. So that's one of the play-in matchups. Now, we had two forward play-in matchups and two defenseman play-in matchups because those were the two categories that had the most players accumulated. Goalies, we barely had enough to get in, so everybody gets in there by default. And centers,
did everybody get in?
For goalies, there were three players that didn't, I think. But
okay. Well, one of the ones I added probably got clipped then.
Well, I would wait and see.
We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah. So that's the first play-in matchup for the forwards, Derek Bugard and Richard Park. And that grouping gets a chance to go against the number one overall seed in the forwards bracket, Mr. Rem Pitlick. I don't know. And there have been some claims put in by members of the selection committee as to ballot stuffing. So I'm going to have to address those as we go. But Bugard versus Park is the first play-in matchup, and I think Hoppy went to go get. He must have gone to go get a jersey.
Oh, I'm eating cookies.
Lucky. I've got mac and cheese.
Okay.
Is he? Well, anyway.
How does Rempillick get the first seed? How does that work? Oh, God.
There we go. That's what it was. Yes, number 1 overall seed in the forward category, Remington, as he is referred to. So Bugard or Park get the opportunity to go up against Pitlick. The other play-in matchup is Danny Heatley against Ryan Carter. Those are the 15 seeds. And they get the opportunity to go up against the 2 seed in the forward bracket, Mr. Kirill Kaprizov. So that's play-in matchups on the forward side. On the defensive side, we have the 16 seeds, Marek Zidlicki. And if we were doing a name bracket, which I thought of like as I was putting this together, and I'm like, that would have been a way better idea, but maybe next year. He goes up against Lubomir Sakaras. I definitely did not pronounce that correct.
Sakarash.
A lot of these names I'm seeing for the first time, so that's also fun. So those two get the opportunity to go up against the number 1 overall seed on the defense region, which is Jonas Brodin. And then the 15 seeds, Kim Johnson and Carson Soucy, square off in the play-in rounds. They go up against the number 2 overall seed in the defense region, that being Mr. Jared Spurgeon.
Again, if you like what you heard, you can follow all of Seth's great content by searching LockedOn Wild wherever you get your podcasts, or checking him out on social at LockedOn Wild.
Next, we have yours truly, the Sota Pod. We'll tease our other contributors later, but Hoppy and I talk everything Minnesota Wild beer and hockey. Here's a teaser from our most recent episode.
Good to be back. Good to be back with the boys. Appreciate it. Appreciate you.
I'll still never look at fruit the same way again, but
well, I'm glad that we had that lasting impression on you. That's important.
Hey, Peter liked the post, by the way. Just saying. Yeah.
Spreading awareness.
Spreading awareness.
Good.
One fruit at a time.
But we are not here for fruit. We are here to discuss the infamous Big Beer Week. Justin, I'll toss it over to you first, but obviously everyone chime in. What is Big Beer Week?
So, Big Beer Week is the 1 week a year that we dedicate to featuring all of our big barrel-aged beers. Anything that's high ABV makes the cut. But we really have a focus on things that are barrel-aged, different varieties of barrel aging, different varieties of barrels specifically to kind of explore what the different types of spirit barrels can bring to the same beer. And so it gives us the opportunity to age and play with a variety of different flavors. And then also we've been introducing all sorts of different stuff. Anything that's over 10% ABV, right? That's our requirement, 10% ABV-ish. It's our guideline.
Roughly 10%.
Right.
Like
It's the way we advertise it.
kind of
Designers.
like blissful ignorance usually hangs on at 9%.
Right.
The last couple of years we've had Belgian triple on, and that's at 9% as well.
Things that slumber in barrels that have some nice like oaky notes,
Not
or
necessarily barrel,
but like
Yeah.
also like higher ABV beers.
We don't
as
actually
well.
know what it is.
and you know, things like big triple IPAs, that's something that we've been loving to feature every year, is like trying to brew a big, super hoppy triple IPA every year for Big Beer Week, something that's released during Big Beer Week, to kind of partake in all the fun that is had with all the other barrel-aged varieties and stuff like that.
And this year we actually even are adding a Scribbled Lines beer to the mix. We have our first mix culture barrel aged beer over 10%.
Right, that was one of the things that Aaron and I had kind of talked about in previous years. And Aaron's over here. This is our head innovation brewer, and him and I work together on a lot of the mixed culture barrel aging stuff here, as well as the clean barrel aging too. But we're happy to be able to introduce our first mixed culture beer into the Big Beer Week lineup this year, which was it's cool to join the ranks of our production brewery on the other side of these walls here, out for that fun week.
Yep.
Well, that's amazing.
celebration of us going 7 days a week. Because like before Big Beer Week, we were 4 days a week, and this was kind of our kickoff to going to 7 days a week.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, because it's a Sunday to Sunday, right? Sunday to Sunday. Yep.
Started as a 7 day,
Originally, it was
but
just a
now
7 day, and then we added
way too many beers.
the
Like,
Sunday.
as you can tell, plenty of beers for 7 days. So
I believe it's
Oh, man.
39 releases, so it'll eventually take over the entire tap line.
Usually, by the end of the week, you'd be hard pressed to find something under 9% alcohol.
yeah,
Because how many taps do we have here?
36.
So we have
36.
36 taps, and often by the end of the week, most of them are occupied by some of these huge offerings that we have, because it's hard to blow through certain things in the course of a couple days. Some stuff does, but some stuff hangs around. So by the end of the week, the variety is
Wonderful.
it's Marcus's favorite thing too.
Yeah.
Marcus is one of our biggest fans of our biggest beers. Yeah.
So long of the short of it, this is no typical beer event. This is something straight out of Lupulin, straight unique, and it's just the amount that you guys have produced and are rolling out it's mind-boggling. It's amazing. I mean, you just shared the entire spread with Hoppy and I literally moments before pressing this record button, and I'm like, my jaw is to the ground right now. Like, all of these look unbelievable, and I mean, it's Lupulin. It is only unbelievable. But like, we're gonna go through a few of them, but just again, for anybody who's new to Lupulin, anybody who's new to Big Beer Week, like, you talked about the spread and how you're going to be doing it on site, but just what was more the inspiration behind this, and why so many beers?
The main reason, like, when I came on like 5-6 years ago, they wanted 6 years ago. Yep, this will be 6 years. Yeah. They wanted to do a whole kickoff on being open 7 days a week. We had a lot of like fantastic barrel-aged beers in the back. We wanted to showcase that. They had just installed a bunch of new taps. So we kind of wanted to make a little shindig out of it. And it went off so well. It was just like we wanted to keep going with that energy. And every year it gets bigger. It gets a lot bigger.
It kind of feels like a week-long Oktoberfest too. It's like those like one-day festivals, but it lasts for 8 days straight.
With beers that are triple the alcohol.
Yeah, with those boozier offerings.
It's like,
So have you ever had someone that like comes in off the street, has no idea about this event, and then just like walks out just hammered off their ass? Or
A lot of that.
Walking, what the hell is going on in here?
You'll still know about the event and still probably walk out hammered at some point.
Yeah.
it's different if you go in with that expectation, though.
True. Yeah.
We've even changed the format a little bit to help people with that. It used to be a free-for-all all day long. Come in, drink whatever you want for like the entire day. We've shortened it up to smaller blocks just to kind of keep people a little more level, because 3, 4, 10%ers add up real quick.
Yeah, sometimes people need a little bit of, you need to help guide them a little bit to ensure that they're not becoming a danger to themselves on a week like this with like this level of ABV circulating through the taps.
That's why I always say like the 5-ounce pours are your friend, because you can try so many more and not have to drink an entire glass. Like, don't be shy of like the 5-ounce pours.
Well, so my like 10, 11 ounce that I got going right now is probably aggressive.
But you're at home, so like.
And one of the questions you asked about why so many different beers. So what's actually cool about Big Beer Week is that being able to have this level of variety of beers and having this kind of event and just attendance, like just straight up attendance and the amount of beer that we're able to sell through it, we get to do these different kinds of beers that are unique in the way that we might not be adding like different types of adjuncts, like a bunch of different like fruits or like chocolates or nuts and vanilla and different things like that. We're able to do fun stuff that excites us as brewers and all of us here as just like beer enthusiasts, that stuff like putting the same beer in just 2 different spirit barrels. Like we've done things like just from like Woodford and Four Roses. Took a beer, same beer, aged them in Woodford barrels, aged them in Four Roses barrels, and just being able to explore those unique differences that are imparted by the barrel itself is something that we might not be able to do if we didn't have this entire week dedicated to just doing like a tap takeover of this type of stuff, you know, because it is like a little bit more of like a niche thing, but this niche thing has turned into like a pretty big thing for us that allows us to have all these types of different things and this different like level of exploration that we can do with flavors and barrel aging and unique stuff like that.
But
Yeah.
if you're like me and you do like candy bars and beer, we also have an infusion every single day of the week.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you guys talked about last time I was on the last podcast. This weekly infusion thing called Bradham's, where we put silly shit in beers, like atomic fireballs and little heavy snacks. During Big Beer Week, we do that every single day. You'll look at the list we sent you at the very bottom of each day. We have a big crazy infusion, and they're all in the big beers.
Nice.
I don't have the list in front of me, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's my favorite part of Big Beer Week.
That's
we-
true.
and we
My
also
wife
do also-
loved the crunch berry was my wife's favorite.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good,
Yeah.
good. Aaron, you were saying too
I was
about
going
the
to say
fruiting?
that, like even on like full batch scale, we have done some and continue to do some fruiting or adjuncting of stouts and big beers. We just, as brewers, like find it especially exciting to kind of explore the nuances of different barrels. Maybe more so than adding candy to the beer, but that's not to say that we don't do that either.
Right.
Or enjoy that. every
Yeah,
once in a
yeah.
while.
We just love being able to have the opportunity to do it all and to be able to cater to all those different flavors and stuff like that everyone might be looking for, right? You know, like everyone kind of has a different taste, and being able to hopefully appeal to everyone during an event like this it's what we love to do.
I mean, not only that, but like I think it teaches people to have a different appreciation for barrel aged beers because, you know, yeah, I used to love the ones with the adjuncts in it, but now like I'm always impressed with these guys and what they can do with like playing with a couple of different barrels and blending them, and they create this super unique flavor that you would swear there has to be something else in it. And they're like, that's from the barrels. It's like an artistry to be able to blend these barrels and sample these and know what needs to sit for how long, and like it's really cool to watch them work and then see what comes from it and taste it and just be blown away. So
No, that is a lot of the fun, and it's not even just like the barrel age because as we
Yeah.
talk, we've got triple IPAs, we've
True.
got a sour
Yeah.
coming out this time, so it's like if there's a box that needs to be checked,
oh yeah,
there's a
it's
good
checked.
chance that we're working our way through it. So
I think the short and cocky answer to that question then is because we can.
and why not?
Yeah.
So that brings us. It reminds me. It's what we're here for. Let's explore some nuances. So what we've got here, and so we're located here in Big Lake, Minnesota, and unfortunately, we have tried to get beer into Canada to our good friend Isha here, and have been turned down somewhere along the line through some part of the postal system didn't to get it there. But we're able to get it to our good buddy Scott here, who is not far away from our brewery. So what we've got here is this year's iteration of Whiskey Nuts, one of the iterations of this year's Whiskey Nuts. And it was aged in barrels from a distillery that's also local to Minnesota here. And these were aged in barrels that were significantly smaller than your standard barrel. They're a very small batch whiskey that...
Aaron's
not
saying
true?
not true.
It's not true?
No.
Aaron, feel free to take over
In
too.
the past, some of the Tattersall barrels
There
that
you
we've
go.
used have been 30-gallon ones. These two that made up this blend, these two in this blend were full 53-gallon.
Oh. That's why we have my fact checker here. He keeps me in mind. But
take back over. This.
so we have, and we have used some of those smaller barrels from Tattersall, but frankly, I lose track sometimes.
We hate them because the bung holes are too big.
Yeah.
The little barrels have got too big of a
Little
bung hole.
barrels with
Got
big
it.
bung holes.
So, but what we've got, this was a blend of two of those barrels, correct?
Yeah, two 53-gallon.
Yeah. So two 53-gallon barrels, and one of them was the Tattersall chocolate malt whiskey, and the other one was the Tattersall Cherrywood smoked malt whiskey. And it's blended basically in equal parts. Each barrel, after barrel aging has about the same volume. It's close, there's a slightly varying levels of evaporation, but they existed, I think, actually on the same rack, so they're really close to one another. But so yeah, that is, and what this is this is exactly what I was talking about. This is us playing around with barrels that had a unique spirit in them prior to the beer going in them, and us being able to pull that kind of character and component out of that barrel and that previous spirit and let it express itself in our beer and kind of just see what happens. And I mean, we've never used either of these types of barrels before. So this is our first time using them, and we were just stoked with the product that came out. And really how this comes about is Aaron and I generally go back there and we pull some samples from some barrels and try them and dump some glasses together and have the rest of the gang around here try them and see what we think. And we're like, hey, shit, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
One of the best days at work when those guys decide to like start pulling nails out of barrels and sampling things.
They're the best days, but they're the worst days. There's nothing that
They're
that comes from those
derailing days for sure.
There you go.
If you didn't hate what you just listened to, you can find all of our content at the Sota Pod on social, that being Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, or by searching the Sota Pod wherever you get your podcasts. Who's up next?
Minnesota Sports Chat. Those new to Ross or Minnesota Sports Chat, you get anything from a unique spin on Minnesota sports to the wrecks of a frozen pizza connoisseur.
Starter jacket trivia for you. Any idea when the starter jacket was founded?
I'm going to guess that the starter jacket was probably founded around the same time as Zuba. So let's go with late 80s for starter.
You're going late 80s for starter.
80s. Oh! Denied.
Do y'all want more try at it? Go a bit earlier. Well, actually go probably a fair amount earlier.
Okay, well, how about the wonderful year 1971?
Oh, nice job.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 1971. Okay, any idea? We keep talking about football for the most part. When you think of starter jackets, I think of football outside of that Charlotte Hornets jacket. Football was actually, the NFL was the last of the four major sports to actually officially license starter.
Wow, late to the party.
Late to the party was the NFL. Any idea who the first was? Do you want to take a guess? I guess you got three left between MLB, NBA, and NHL.
I'd like to go with Major League Baseball, Ross.
You're
Yes!
on fire. Major League Baseball was the first to license starter jackets in 1976. The NFL was the last. Any idea? Want to take a guess?
On why the NFL was
No, just
last?
what year? Because this actually astounded me.
That the NFL licensed starter jackets. How about 1992?
So no.
No.
They licensed them in 1983, and the real starter jacket craze, based off of my cracked research, most of it from something called snagcollective.com, did not really take off until the late 80s and into the 90s.
I guess they needed time to design accordingly to get people really interested in that. But then thinking about the fashion of the early 80s versus the late 80s and early 90s, things were still pretty 70s-ified in the early 80s. Like everyone thinks that the 80s was all about neon and bright colors. No. The 80s was brown. You know the couch that I'm talking about that was in your friend's basement. It's brown and it's kind of orange and it has pheasants on it.
Yeah, and it almost has like plaid checkers too in spots.
Yeah, there's wood paneling in the basement too with a Schlitz sign in the bar.
That's a good beer.
Yeah.
That's a good beer.
That's the 80s aesthetic. It was too just beige for starter jackets.
The run for starter, I mean, if you think about how the company went, if you want to go from when they launched to when they filed for bankruptcy, again, technically still alive, but let's just say when they filed for bankruptcy, for all intensive purposes, they were gone. Want to guess that year?
I want to guess that was probably 1998.
Oh, you were so close. I'll give you correct.
Thank you.
But it was 1999.
But see, think of that arc, Ross, where starter jackets really peaked around 94, 95, and then it was just a steep decline into obsolescence.
They you know what they did? They hit the Nike iceberg.
Oh.
They were floating. Making a Titanic reference, obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hit that damn iceberg.
Thank you for context.
So here's what snakecollective.com says. Again, what I really hope that that's also not like a dirty slang term that I'm saying.
Well, we'll find out when somebody writes to you.
We'll find out when I label this podcast clean and we find out it's not. What did Starter in? Growing competition with Nike, Adidas, Reebok, and others reduced Starter's market share, ultimately sending them into that bankruptcy in 1999. Nike bought the company, but was later sold to something called Iconics. Should I know what that is?
Iconics is one, well, I think now I welcome corrections, but it's one of those companies that buys a bunch of brands and then just starts to license them out and distribute them out. Yeah.
The last sentence cracked me up. It says the downfall continued through their partnership with Walmart in the early 2000s and early 2010s.
You can find this beauty on social at Brendel Ross. That's BRENDEL Ross. And his podcast by searching Minnesota Sports Chat on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Who's up?
Judd'z Budds. Mutant, Spitter, Sicko, Z. We don't care what you call him. To us, Spokes Z just means elite prospect coverage. Here's a preview of the brilliant ramblings you can hear on Judd'z Budds.
If this team wants to play the way they like to play, which is like high octane, physical, in your face, high pace, just quick, aggressive hockey, then you're going to need guys that are fresh, and it's going to be hard to stay fresh when you're playing every other day for, basically 3 months. So I would expect a little bit of movement, and I'm wondering how long it takes for Mitchell Chaffee to get the call, because I know they liked him a lot this season since he's come back from injury / COVID. He's just been on a tear. He's doing it again. He's just a power forward. He plays the way that they like to play. There's skill there. And right now, since he's come back, he's just been super confident, drives the net so hard. He gets in dangerous areas. He creates chances. He does a little bit of everything for you. Defensively, it's whatever. But I mean, you look at the kid on the puck, the way he plays, there's a lot to like there. He's continued to play well, so I'd expect him to get the call up. Nolan Stevens is playing really well the past couple of games since he came back from injury. Completely different player than when he first came over. I think he's kind of just got that confidence right now. He's stepping in for teammates. He's getting in the mix, getting in scrums, driving the net, creating scoring chances, hard along the wall. He's doing a lot of things really well. And I wonder if they like that and if they look at that as an option to call up at some point here. Mason Shaw, we saw, got the call like literally an hour after I put that tweet out. I wonder if he gets games. It looks like today he was rotating in on the fourth line, so maybe that he's just there as a body right now. Who knows? But anyways, I do think you're going to see a lot of guys getting looks here from Iowa just to see what they have, and then to give those guys at Minnesota a little bit of some fresh legs. And a bunch of guys that are going to be competing for future spots, right? So it's never a bad thing to have some internal competition. That's like, for me, that's important to have, especially with where Minnesota is right now and how deep that pool is. You want guys competing against obviously their team, but also each other. Then they're trying to show out that, they can be NHL players and that they deserve a look. So I would be looking for that. I'm curious to see how it goes. I'm curious to see who gets the call and when. And we'll see what happens as the trade deadline approaches. But it's an interesting time right now. They really need to bounce back and soon, because right now they're looking at third place in the Central as St. Louis stays doing whatever the hell they're doing. Colorado might be the best team in the league. They're a problem. But obviously you want to get home ice, so they really need to hit it, kind of hit their stride here, because it looks like right now they're kind of obviously they're dragging, but you're looking at a first round matchup with either St. Louis or Nashville, probably, unless you fall into that wild card spot. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but they really gotta figure out what they're doing here, because it looks bad. Now, the other thing people are going nuts about, the Jordy Ben versus Kalen Addison thing, believe me, I'm at the point now where I don't really get it, but at the same time, I don't think, every loss you can just look at Jordy Ben. I think there are plenty of other guys who aren't really pulling their weight right now, and I think you got a lot of tired hockey players. Jordy Ben had that good quote, drink a Red Bull if you're tired. Leave the fucking guy alone. Listen, he knows who he is. He knows what player he is. And he's not the one telling them to play him over Addison. If you want to get mad at someone, get mad at Dean. But yeah, it is puzzling though. I'll tell you, I don't really know why they're so dead set on not playing Addison. Although I do think he's far from a perfect hockey player, but yeah, it looks like they're going to keep rolling with Jordy Ben and continuing to piss everybody off, which is kind of funny actually. So I'm not that upset about it. Let's see. Anything else I want to touch on with Minnesota? I don't think so. Let's see. What do they have this week coming up? I know they got the Calgary rematch tomorrow. What else is up with this gauntlet of a fucking schedule? Let's see. That was a really weird voice I just did. I'm sorry. Okay, March. They play on the 1st. Oh my God. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is good radio. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They have 16 games in the month of March. So that's good. And that includes games against Calgary, the Rangers, Dallas. That's going to be a big one. Nashville, the Bruins, Chicago, Vancouver, Vegas, Colorado, Pittsburgh. That's a tough fucking schedule. So I think this might be the next couple of weeks where you see guys starting to get called up. I would expect, guys from Iowa to get a look here. But this week, by the time we talk next time, they'll have played Calgary, Philly, Buffalo, and Dallas. So I think those are at least 3 of those 4 games you're expecting a win, or at least maybe not expecting a win or whatever. But you would like to think that those are winnable right there. And I mean, realistically, Calgary is beatable too, as good as they are. You played like shit the other night. So I'd expect to bounce back at home there. But man, March is going to be brutal. So we'll see who gets the call, though. I'm interested to see it. But yeah, so that's Minnesota. Let's move on. Let's talk about Iowa real quick. They had a little bit of a rough week. It ended on a good note. 3 games since the last time we spoke. 5 games in 7 days. It's a fucking absolute grind. They went 1-4 in those games. First game, they looked okay. In the third period anyway. They kind of just started off really slow. They took a too many men penalty. Then Texas takes a too many men penalty. So it was really it's just a bitch of a game. They go down 2-0 early. Then they're down 3-1. They were down 3-0, I believe, and they mount a comeback late. Ottenbright and Stevens combined for a beautiful goal to make it 3-2, and then they give up the empty netter. Zane McIntyre looks really good. They left him out to dry. A lot of turnovers. Again, this is part of the reason I've been saying, please bring me Simon Johansson whenever that season's done, or whenever his contract's up this season. So whenever you can, I would like to see him in Iowa because I would love to have a puck-moving, good skater on the back end, because I don't know how much more meat and potato back end I can watch. But just like it just night after night, it seems like it's a real chore trying to get the puck from one end to the other through either, D-men carrying it or skating it up or pass. Like it's tough. So, you're looking at a bunch of forwards who, again, we have different line combinations every night, so that doesn't help. But they're having to do a lot of the work. You're seeing Marco Rossi coming back and retrieving way too many pucks. He's doing it effectively. He looks really good doing it, and he's able to, and I don't think he has a problem. But I would like to be able to see him come up the middle of the ice to grab it from the defenseman and get a nice first pass. I would like to see him do that and not have to go like battle along the wall in the corner, in his own corner, to win the puck and then start a possession going that way. I guess maybe that's good for him in the long run, considering he has to do that a lot of nights and he looks good doing it. He's still a pointer game kid. He's 40 points in 40 games, but I think a lot of their trouble ends up being on the back end, and I think they might have and then on the other end, they might have hit the post more than any other. I think Beckman might have hit the post 15 times this season. He's only got 8 goals this year, but I know for a fact, just like in passing, I've started watching a game and within 5 minutes, he's hit a post like 6 different times. They've got him in that middle 6 role. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it doesn't. He's playing a lot of low event minutes, a lot of harder minutes too. So, I think a lot of people are like, what's up with his points? And I'm like, well, they've kind of glued him to one of Cody McLeod or now Brandon Baddock, the other face puncher. So, he's working really hard though. I'll tell you, man, that kid, he's got He's got balls. He plays with a lot of fire. He's passionate. He wants to win. He's animated. He sticks up for teammates when he can. There's a lot to like about it. But, you look at the role he's going to be in when he does get called up to Minnesota. And if you think he's in Minnesota next season with, in the NHL, it's probably going to be in some kind of middle six role, just because I guess it really depends on what happens with Fiala. But that's where there's going to be a spot. It's either up there, which I don't really see, or somewhere in the middle six. So he's going to play a little bit different game. I've said this every week now for a long time, but overall, I'm pleased with how he's been doing. Anyways, we'll move on to that's the other thing. They're out shooting teams almost every night, and they just have either no puck luck, or they just can't finish. There's just not a whole lot of finish. Let's see that. Yeah, in that game again, McIntyre looks great. 22 saves, 25 shots. Just so many turnovers right in front of him, like mind blowing. The next night, Hunter Jones gets the call. The poor kid. I'm starting to feel bad for him. He's kind of getting shit on. They got smacked 4-1. Again, they outshoot Texas 31-23. They can't score. Hit a couple crossbars. They went up 1-0 early with a goal from Kyle Rao. Victor Rask makes his debut. He assists on the goal. Good for him. He looks like he's actually having a lot of fun playing down there. Smile on his face a lot. He's into it whenever they score. He's got 3 points on the 2 games he's played in. Obviously he just looks great. He's been playing on that first line with Kyle Rao. I think they threw Swaney up there one game because they've been kind of keeping Rossi and Chafee together, which I really like. But yeah, Victor Rask looked really good. I'll be honest with you. And he's just kind of buzzing around. He's kind of just like better than everybody, which he should be. And he is. But anyways, yeah, Hunter Jones, 3 of the 4 goals they gave up, they're bad. And he looks distraught whenever he gives up the goal. He's very never doing the Dubnik, like looking at his teammates like, yo, you screened me, or yo, you tipped it. Just down on himself. So, that's something to keep an eye on for me. I don't really have I don't blame the kid for, it looks like he just has zero confidence right now. He's a 2nd round pick a couple years ago. So right there, that tells you a lot of teams, or at least the Minnesota Wild, really think highly of him. They expect a lot of him. And he's just been thrown around. He's been called up to Minnesota just as like the 3rd guy to watch. He goes down to the ECHL. He's getting scratched down there for whatever reason. He comes up to Iowa, back down. I don't think he stayed in one spot for more than a month. So this is a kid, I'm sure he's just trying to get his footing and try to get a sense of the team that he's going to be behind. And now that Hammond gets traded, to Montreal, and by the way, he wins his first game back. Good for him. That's awesome. That was really cool to see. I would expect that McIntyre Jones is probably the 1-2 punch now, with McIntyre kind of taking over the starting duties. But yeah, Hunter Jones, every time he gets up the goal, he's just like yelling at himself or his head's down. And, for me, it's like, hey, dude, on to the next one. Like, you're like, if all the people that, all the guys on the team, on the Iowa Wild that you kind of are hoping can be like somewhat even keel, you're probably hoping your goalie can be somewhat even keel. Obviously, a lot of guys are complete psychopaths, but every time he gives up the goal, especially if it's a bad one, he can't just get all over himself. Like, it happens. But I do think he's fighting confidence right now. Like, a lot of these pucks that are beating him in the AHL, they're savable. They're very stoppable. They're just getting by him. But I do think a lot of that is he's playing behind a different team every single night, and he hasn't really been in one spot for more than a few weeks. So, I hope people aren't just like giving up on him or like shitting on him or just saying, hey, this kid sucks. What are we doing here? Let's trade him. It's a goalie. He's very young. He's on like the 4 or 5 year development plan here, and that's fine. That's what you kind of expect with goalies. And like, if he's down the ECHL, guess what? That's also fine. A lot of goalies go down and start in the ECHL. Not a big deal. You look at like a fucking Braden Holtby, Cup winner, ECHL. Bennington was supposed to go to the ECHL. He just told them to go fuck themselves. They just didn't go. But yeah, I think, Hunter Jones just needs one good game, hopefully, to just feel good, get a little bit of confidence back and just start growing, get a little more consistency. Because right now, he's all over himself. And at this point, he's kind of his own worst enemy. And I know he's a lot better than he's shown so far in the AHL this season. So last game of the week ends on a high note. They win 4-3 against Rockford. Those games they turn into wars almost every time. They did go up 3-0 and then gave up 2 straight before scoring a fourth, and they gave up a third. So they survived that late scare. Rask, goal assist. Rao's incredible. I think he's top 3 now in points all time. Goal, 2 assists for him. Ottenbright with another assist. So now he's chipping in offensively. He's been a really good player for them this season. I forgot he's actually been here for a little bit, but he looks really good. When Addison was down there, he was a really good partner with Addison. And now he's getting reward on the offensive end too. He's a big kid. He's tough. He stands up for his teammates. He'll drop the gloves, no problem. He plays real hard defensive minutes. He looked good for them. He's probably been their most consistent defenseman, him and Mermis. So it's good. It's nice to see him get rewarded on the score sheet. Marco Rossi, like I said before, he scores this game, really dirty goal, which you like to see. It's not like a shot from deep or a breakaway or anything. It's, in those hard areas where he's driving hard to the net, even with that cage, even with a broken nose. He's not afraid to go, pick up dirty goals. So good for him. Chafee, another 2 assists. He's just looking really good. Nick Swaney got back on the score sheet. He gets the assist as well. A gorgeous pass to Kyle Rao. That's a kid you're looking at bottom 6 role at some point in the NHL, I think. He was great at UMD, and now he's playing really well for Iowa this season. It was a bummer he got hurt when he did, because he started on a real tear for them. Then it kind of waned off and he got injured, and now he's back. And he looks totally himself again. And again, McIntyre makes another 22 saves, 25 shots, and just looks fantastic. So for the season, your leaders, Marco Rossi, 40 games, 15 goals, 25 assists, 40 points. Just exactly what you were kind of hoping for this season. If anything, if you were to pick one thing, maybe you were expecting him to be over a point a game after not playing for a year, which would be ridiculous, but he just looks great. He's pretty much just being exactly what you want him. He's doing exactly what you want him to do. And Bill Guerin said as much, right? It's just, give him a full year of professional hockey before you just throw him into the fire. That's just my take. And that's what's going to be my take till the end of the year. Maybe I'm wrong. I probably am. I usually am. Anyways, second team, Rao, 36 games, 34 points. Shaw, who's in Minnesota right now, we'll see if he gets a game. 33 points in 41 games. He's got career highs in goals and assists. Beckman, 8 goals and 16 assists in 44 games. Again, he's even killing penalties now, which I like to see. But the one thing that stands out is just that effort, the compete level. Doesn't really matter where he is in the lineup. It doesn't look like he's ever upset about, if he's not in the first power play, if he's not in the top 6. He's never, just watch him play. And if you weren't looking at the lines and you weren't looking at his line mates, you'd have no idea. He's just doing his thing. He's just busting his balls, which you love to see. Again, Swaney playing really well, 38 games, 23 points. And Chafee, I'm telling you, I think the kid's going to get called up. I really want him to. I want to see him get some NHL games. I think he deserves to be rewarded. 26 games, 11 goals, 11 assists for 22 points. And McIntyre's played 16 games since coming over from Tucson. He's 8-6-1 with a 9.18 and a 2.38. That's while getting shelled a lot of nights and facing a ton of high danger chances. And now Hunter Jones, 8 games. He's 2-5-1 with an 8.90 and a 3.37. Again, you're expecting better, but I'm sure once he kind of puts together a few games here, gets a little bit of confidence back, he'll be good to go. So that's Iowa. They had that tough. I mean, again, 5 games in 7 days is fucking insane. But we'll see what happens, and we'll see what these line combos look like, and we'll see who gets called up. All right, so before we go to the roundup, let's pay some bills and talk about DraftKings. Hoops fans, the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is too good to pass up. I'm talking between the legs, 360 windmill good. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still take your shot at a big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy basketball contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Minimum $5 deposit. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Tennessee. Call or text the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. Moving on. Whew. That took a lot out of me. I'll be honest. I'll be okay, though. Not a hero. Not looking for credit, but please clap.
Dudes fucking rock. If you want more, you can find him every Tuesday. And sometimes we don't really know with him. He's kind of a wild card. Maybe even Thursdays on the Sota Pod feed. So same podcast feed as before. But if you want to follow him specifically, and for some reason you haven't already, you can check him out on Twitter at SpokedZ. Who do we got?
Wild Takes. On the MN Wild leg of 10K Takes, Dev and Zooch talk hockey and nonsense, bringing you their wild takes every week. Here's some of their latest work.
And this will be my last point before we go into our outro. But how about Bukestad? Holy moly. He came back and he's looked very good. I mean, we knew that was a roster spot he wasn't going to lose, in my opinion. You can't keep Bukestad. As a fourth line guy, Bukestad is a great fourth line player. And
I agree.
And you can move him up and down the lineup. That's the beauty of Nick Bukestad. A Connor Dewar, can you really move him up to the first line to play with the Kaprizov and them? I don't think you can. But Bukestad, he could go up there and play minutes with Kaprizov. And I mean, we saw that last night. I'm pretty sure he went up there he went up with Greenway's line too for a few minutes. He's someone you can move up and down.
I do agree that Bukestad has a versatility that, he's a Swiss Army knife player.
Yeah.
For do we need him at left wing? Cool. Do we need him at third center? Cool. Do we need him at second line right wing? All right, cool. We can work that. If we have Bukestad on our fourth line, I mean that is awesome.
You're right.
That first game that he came back, I think he had a goal and an assist.
Yep.
And it was not a coincidence that was the best that the fourth line had played all year.
Yeah, he's months. A big part, I think, to this Wild's playoff success too. A big body. I don't know, having those two. I wouldn't say that. Well, obviously Boldy's got size, but I mean, I wouldn't say our two scoring lines have very good size at all. I think they're a little undersized if we want to lean to that. But I don't think they're. Kaprizov, call him undersized. Come on, let's be honest here. Or even Zuccarello. I love seeing Zuccarello's game transform here with the Wild. He's back checking, stapling people to the boards. And it's weird. That Lizard King, calling him the Lizard King, it's such a great nickname. Him with his stick. Holy shit, dude. There's a couple
oh my God.
His stick out, and it stuck to his stick, and he did a little one stick handle. It's on his. I'm like, whoa, dude. What was that?
If I have to hear non-Wild broadcast mention the fact that he plays with a super long stick.
Oh my God.
Again,
dude.
Every time. It's so funny. It kills me every time. They're like, oh, well, he's 5'8", but he plays with a stick that's however many inches long, and that makes him have a reach of somebody that's actually a 6'4" player. And it's like, okay, cool. Fun stat. I've heard it literally every single time that the Wild have played that I didn't listen to the La Panther broadcast. Right. Every time. Like, I don't know. Just do your homework, guys.
You're all probably already following 10K Takes at 10K_takes if you're not. But go follow their hockey dedicated feed at Wild Takes 10K. And of course, search Wild Takes wherever you get your podcasts.
MNCAA, hosted by Nick Maxon, you get your weekly dose of Minnesota's college puck. Here's a look at what you can expect for all 6 Division I programs.
And last but not least, and it certainly feels like Drew and Alex are switching spots because now Alex is in the car office here to discuss Minnesota State Mankato. Alex, welcome to the show.
Yes. Good to chat and good to talk about a trophy winning weekend for the Mavericks. It just keeps rolling.
You know, it's a trophy that certainly, yes, it's good to earn the CCHA regular season championship. But no question, this team has bigger aspirations and bigger trophies in its foreground. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's why some of those guys came back for a 5th year, and they want to raise some hardware in Boston and bring a trophy back to Mankato for sure.
So let's talk about the previous weekend. And again, it feels like a broken record every time that we do this. But at home, last home series against Bemidji State, I get another sweep. So tell us what happened in this series.
Yeah, just both high scoring games for them, and Dryden just continues to save the day when he's really needed. He doesn't have to make a ton of saves, but when he's there, it's just amazing. And they did another great job without Nathan Smith. Mike Hastings made it back. He wanted to be there for it was senior weekend too, so he wanted to be there for the guys. And the top line without Nathan Smith continued to dominate. Cade Borchard, Brendan Fury stepped in right for Nathan Smith, and then Julian Napravnik having a big week. He said that this was his first time having his parents be in Mankato, which is huge because they live over me. So, big deal.
Yeah, and I think, Alex, when we look forward to what this team has got next, obviously. We talk about the CCHA tournament coming up for this squad. They still got to take care of business on the road one more time against Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech, no slouch of a team this year, especially. I guess a kind of a nice test before we get to the conference tournament.
Yes, yeah, huge. Bemidji's always caused them issues in the past, and so big deal to sweep them. And then you got Tech. Tech is a great team, and they should be in the NCAA tournament too. So good couple weekends here to finish the season for sure.
Last time that you had a loss was back on January the 14th, again, at the hands of Northern Michigan, a team led by Grant Patolny and his staff. We've mentioned this before, Alex, and again, it bears repeating, but for the naysayers out there, I think you have to address it. For those who say Mankato is winning in a conference that is weaker than the Big Ten, weaker than the NCHC, Mankato really hasn't had a tough test yet. What do you say to those fans?
Yeah, they just just keep on winning, right? That's Al Davis quote, just win, baby. From the Raiders, all you can do is win, and you keep scoring a ton of goals, and that just breeds confidence for the team. And you got a lot of veterans that have been there now in the Frozen Four, and they know what it takes to get back there. So just keep on winning.
Is there any team out there, I suppose in the CCHA, you got to get through the conference tournament first. Again, I think Mankato is a shoo-in to make the NCAA tournament. Yeah. That's lightly said. But as far as the tournament concerns first, right, any team out there that can give Mankato a little bit of a tough go to get to that tournament championship.
Yeah, Northern Michigan beat them last conference tournament and beat them in Mankato for that, and really just completely smoked them. So that Grant's team seems to have Mankato's number. They beat them earlier this in the regular season too, up there in Northern Michigan, and so that's the one team that has a chance to beat the Mavs, and they're out of the top 16 right now, so they're going to be hungry to try to get that automatic berth.
And for Mankato, I guess for the fans who are looking to keep the train rolling, right? There's got to be, I would think, some adversity at stake. Let's just say there is a slip up here in the CCHA tournament, whether it's semifinals or championship game. Still, this team is still built to win in Boston. And so maybe you take one, maybe a slightly step back in the tournament championship. If that means you get to a Frozen Four, would you take it?
Oh yeah, 100%. They at least don't have to worry about getting a loss, and if that were to happen, they can rest up again. And I think even with a loss, they would probably still have a number 1 seed, just with how well they've played, and having that 1 seed is just so gigantic. But you also can't let up at all, because we've seen so many previous upsets of seeds. So you just pedal to the metal, have everybody healthy, and we're still in COVID times too, so everybody's got to just stay safe too, and pray that no test positive. So it's gonna be a fun couple of weeks here for sure.
When we look at the pairwise here, Alex, it's Minnesota State, it's Denver, it's Michigan, 3 of the top 4 teams. Again, the only time, at least as of right now, that if those rankings hold still is that means the only time you would face each other would be in the Frozen Four if the numbers play themselves out. But is there any other team outside the top 4 right now in the pairwise that you say, no, I do not want to face this team, whether it's in a regional semifinal or regional finals, or one team outside the CCS you're looking and go, if I don't have to play this team, that would be okay with me?
Yeah, Minnesota or Northeastern if they're able to get in. I really Levi, the goalie, who was away with Team Canada in the Olympics, he's an incredible goaltender, and so any of these teams that have a really really good goaltender, you don't want to face. And then the Gophers just are playing phenomenal right now. I think Bob Motzko should be the Big Ten Coach of the Year. He has had guys be continuing to be out of the lineup, either through injury or at the Olympics, or losing a Mike Richter winner and Jack LaFontaine, and Justin Close just stepped in without a beat. And so the Gophers are really humming right now, and I really like that team. So Mankato did beat them in the tournament last year, but that's the team that's really rolling on all cylinders. So those are a couple of teams that I would want to avoid.
We'll stay in state, and you mentioned the Gophers. We obviously talked about this a little bit earlier in the podcast today, but St. Cloud State, UMD, I would think right now between those two, UMD a slight favorite over St. Cloud in terms of just the pairwise rankings. Is St. Cloud really on the hot seat right now in terms of being kind of in a deep bubble type situation?
Yeah, they're a weird team to figure it out. I've been in attendance for quite a few of their games, and they need some of their big guns to step up. Easton Brodzinski's been kind of quiet, and now they're getting Henches back. But they need some of their senior guys to step up and make some plays. And Nolan Walker's been pretty quiet. Micah Miller's been playing really great hockey, and Perbix, but they need some of their older guys to step up. And Rennick's been pretty solid in net there, keeping them in it for a lot of the games, and so they just need to score a little bit more. Fanti's a pretty good goalie for UMD, especially last night, and so it's gonna be really close. The NCHC is just a beast, and it's crazy. I did pick UND to win the NCHC this season. They're in first right now, but they're dealing with a lot of injuries and without their best player in Sanderson. So it's gonna be really interesting. I think St. Cloud will be able to stay in there, but it'll be close.
And we often try to avoid talking about North Dakota on this show, but I think we almost have to, because they've kind of quietly gone under the radar as a team that especially after all the leadership and the offense they lost last season, including a late signing with Jesper Weatherby going to San Jose. I think nobody really has given North Dakota really a fighting chance, but quietly they've actually been pretty decent as of late, and they may be sort of that pseudo underdog, which is, I don't know how many times you can say that about North Dakota, but they're kind of going under the radar, a team that has been playing okay hockey. I wouldn't say great, but you got to still watch out for the Fighting Hawks.
Yeah, they continue to show resiliency. Like I said, no Sanderson in the lineup, and just their depth, as we like to say in this town with the Wild. The depth is really shown off for UND, and Brad Barry's one of the best coaches in the nation, and so he always has his teams ready to go no matter what. They've picked up some big wins that have really helped them move up in the pairwise, and a big weekend against UMD, and getting that win against St. Cloud too. So watch out for the Fighting Hawks.
So, Alex, I think it's prediction time a little bit here. I think there's no question the Mavericks, if they hold pat, which I don't think anybody is going to go against them this weekend, they get the number 1 seed. They face St. Thomas in the quarterfinals. I think that series, you hate to say it for St. Thomas, who actually have really made some significant strides as an organization, just can't match Mankato. So does Mankato win the CCHA championship? And then if you were to guess their first opponent, and yes, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, in the NCAA tournament, any guesses who they might face first?
I think they will win the tournament. And then a first round opponent, it might be one of those, those schools, if BU hops in there, or Northeastern, I think, or maybe Clarkson if they are able to beat Quinnipiac. But I think it'll be one of those Eastern schools, and it would lead for a really, really tough first round matchup, but exciting for sure.
Well, last question, Alex, before we get rolling here and wrap things up. But I guess for a team with such great aspirations, for a team that has all the makings of a national championship team, I guess, how do you keep your emotions in check? And I guess it's often a point I think is overlooked, especially this time of year, especially when you have had the success like Mankato has had. And I don't think there's any doubt this team is certainly one of the favorites to reach Boston. But if you're a player under Mike Hastings, you understand the opportunity that's ahead of you. How do you keep the emotions in check, not get too high, not get too low, so that way you can stay focused on the task at hand and therefore give yourself the best chance of really making Minnesota hockey history down there for Mankato?
Yeah, they can reach back to last postseason. They had a ton of highs and really low against St. Cloud, but that Quinnipiac game, like they were out of it. They were down a couple goals, and scored late in the third period to tie it from Jake Livingstone, coast to coast, and then Ryan Sam getting the overtime winner. I mean, that was just a huge moment in school history and pro history, that first NCAA win. And then, the highest of highs, shutting out Minnesota, and, knowing that continue to go further, and then in the Frozen Four losing this to St. Cloud, and so they can look back on those experiences and know that they've been on sides, and not get too high, but not too low as well. And make this run for Boston. You got to see Molly and Dren McKay that could have signed. Nate Smith could have signed, and so. These want to bring hardware.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun to watch this team, Alex, again, as at least out of the state of Minnesota, look to be one of the top 2 teams heading into the NCAA tournament. Alex Micheletti, thank you very much for joining us, and that will do it here for episode number 20 here of the MNCAA podcast here. You can always follow us on Twitter at MN_NCAA. I'm your host, Nick Max, and we'll see you back next week as the conference tournaments are just 2 weeks away.
Just like Judd'z Budds, you can find all MNCAA episodes on the Sota Pod feed, with episodes dropping every Friday. Go follow the dedicated college hockey feed on Twitter at MN_NCAA. MNCAA was taken by some douchebag with 0 followers that won't reply to Isha with our very lucrative USD cash offer. Now, Isha, who's the last show that we want to promote here this week?
Brave the Wild. Joey has been in the Minnesota Wild podcast game since 2008. Here's a clip from the chiseled veteran.
Conversation is that Marc-Andre Fleury could be headed back to Las Vegas. What do you think of that? Wouldn't that be something? Pittsburgh Penguins, state of hoppy. Yep, that's Scott's other club. Derek says, there are levels in video games that can really frustrate you. What level do you think the Minnesota Wild are stuck in right now? For me, it would be any part of Ghosts and Goblins right now. Dun, 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 dun. That game is so hard, yes. Ghosts and Goblins. Oh my, I want to get some soundbite here going. I better have it on here. I think I did. Yes, I do. I want to go to this one. Nope, not that one. Not that one. That one. It's too loud. That's when things are really rough. The last 2 levels. Impossible. You get this far in this game, you're a video gaming legend. You're Pat. Yeah, I don't even know. You're Gretzky. Like, you're literally Gretzky to Lemieux level. Yeah, that would be Game 7, Game 6 of the Cup final against Florida or something. But obviously, right now, yeah, I mean, it could be any parts of Ghosts and Goblins because it's like that where it just gets stupidly hard and things are just not working out. Let me think of how about level 7? All of level 7 in Mario 1. That's really tough. And of course, the final dungeon, level 7-4, where you don't know where the heck you're going forever without a player's guide. And it kind of feels that way with the Wild at times. So I'll go with level 7-4, Super Mario Brothers, where you can get freaking lost. 8-4 is a maze, but it's beatable. 7-4. It's level 7's harder than 8, I think, in Mario. It is partially because people don't play it as much. Where 8, it's the final level, and you practice it like crazy. Okay, yes, and that game is from way back in the good old days. Obviously, as is Ghosts and Goblins. Ghosts and Goblins is 86. Super Mario is 85. Eric Felska says, the Iowa Wild have also been struggling through a slump, kind of like the Minnesota Wild. What sort of cloud is hanging over this organization? Is it the uncertainty the trade deadline brings, or is it something else? I don't know. It's almost like things kind of coming back to the average. How do they say that word? Damn it. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like things kind of coming back to the middle again, where Iowa looked so spectacular at the start of the season, and now they can't score worth crap. Whereas like the Heartlanders, it was like everything was bad in the Iowa Heartlanders. The other Iowa team, there was like nothing good about that team, and poor Hunter Jones was struggling. I wouldn't be surprised if there's trade. Like, you guys are nervous about trades, but I suppose that could be everybody throughout the league, every AHL team, that kind of thing. I'm honestly not sure if it's just, and you can't cry fatigue yet. We're certainly not that far into this, busy stretch. I mean, we just started. Where Iowa, and I think this can go for any team, though, the uncertainty of call up, and up and down, up and down. I mean, AHL must be just stressful beyond belief for teams because guys are up and down. And I do think Matthew Boldy not being there anymore doesn't help, obviously, because he was dominating in the AHL when he was healthy, Matt Boldy. So it's stuff like that, I suppose. And certain players like Damien Giroux just not having a good season, period. It's stuff like that. And then Swain and Hickett's had their red-hot start, and they aren't doing jack anymore. So it's one thing leads to another in that sense, where there's just no freaking offense in Iowa. Minnesota, it's I don't know if we were getting a little too happy with ourselves at times, thinking, oh yeah, we'll be fine. We'll come back and we'll win. We'll get the extra skater and we'll kick some ass. And then it just hasn't been working out. That's kind of what I can think of right now. Derek says TNC's Anson Carter drew a lot of ire from Minnesota Wild fans for his comments about the team lacking depth. Yet the Wild found a way to look like pure crap, but we're only missing number 36 and number 34 against Zuccarello and Dumba, of course. Is that criticism? Is it more warranted right now? Maybe. Yeah, I mean, let's see if and this is the guy that got on somebody's nerve a little bit. I'll just leave it at that. I'll read it. I hope I don't annoy Derek right now. Into the Wild says, not at all. This wasn't a depth loss. This was a team that just didn't show up. Just didn't show up. Loss. Overturned pucks like crazy. Bad angled shots. No hustle. Led Ottawa in the dangerous zones, etc. Derek says, shrugs. Is that a sign of lack of depth? Where players struggle to adapt to changes in the lineup. Well, there were changes. There were. See, I mean, certain guys like Zuccarello not being there. It's like, Kaprizov, no points. Funny, So that's the one thing. Sometimes you need that other guy. That actually is kind of scary when you think about that. As I try not to cough to that. So good point, Derek. Let's see how he. If this was isolated to tonight's efforts against Ottawa, I wouldn't be asking the question, which wasn't directed at you, by the way. Yeah. Not a sign of lack of depth. Wild went 9-0-1 or about that when they had almost a regular season. Dumbo was out his game, and they won. So isn't all their depth. Yeah, it said it's a trend that's developing. Tonight's effort was similar. Where we saw against the Jets, bad penalties, lack of focus. Yeah, I mean, okay. Yeah, it's interesting back and forth there. Interesting back and forth. And, of course, it's like we all kind of make our own decisions on that. But we're not that deep. Obviously, we're not that deep if Freddie Gaudreau is like one of your main players. So that's kind of my way to look at it. And, yeah, like Dumba being out, the defense, I don't think we are that deep, no. We're deep in certain areas. And we're fortunate to have a nice grapevine, but a lot of those guys aren't ready yet. So, yeah, that's kind of where I lean on that one. Yeah.
Get your questions in every week by following @Brave the Wild and listen by searching Brave the Wild, Minnesota Wild podcast.
All right. Thanks to everybody tuning in on Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I mean, wherever you get your podcasts from, the best thing you can do for us or any of the content that you heard in this podcast episode, you can go on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, give us and give them 5 stars and a kind review. It goes such a long way. You're already supporting us by listening to this episode, so you might as well go and review us as well. If you're jonesing for more hockey content, go listen through our website, thehockeypodcastnetwork.com. And on your app, please download the episode before you listen, as it just helps all of our business. You can follow myself at VI Sports Talk. You can follow Hoppy at State of Hoppy. And of course, you can find the Sota Pod on all platforms at the Sota Pod. Signing off, I'm Misha Dromi alongside the State of Hoppy. This has been the Sota Pod, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. We good, buddy?
We good.
Don't fear, just drink some beer and stay wild.